You strong.
At this time, at the place where the person needed to be found, Manchul carried the Dharma Saint on his back and panted continuously. Behind them were a group of dryad monsters chasing after them. Their tree branches swung towards the two people who were running with their legs up. No, there was only one person running. That attack caused both of them to fall to the ground. The dryads took this opportunity to throw tree branches at Manchul. Fortunately, Saint Dharma regained consciousness and created a protective barrier to shield both of them. Manchul called out in horror, "The old man!" The Dharma Saint used his little strength to fend off the attacks of the monsters, telling him, "Leave me behind and run away, I will hold them back." Manchul didn't have the heart to ask, but what should he do? Phopton calmly replied, "I'm just an old man who's already half stepped into the coffin." After speaking, he immediately vomited blood. Looking at Uncle Manchul, who was trembling but still did not run away, Phopton immediately said, "If I had not brought you here from the beginning, this would not have happened. What is so slow? Run now. Hurry up." Suddenly Phopton's face turned pale. Cracks appeared in the protective barrier. No. The Dharma Saint quickly fell in front of Uncle Manchul, accompanied by a completely broken barrier. Uncle Manchul hugged the Dharma Saint's body and cursed his mother, but the tree branches did not stop the attack. He closed his eyes tightly and thought, "I'm sorry, it's all my fault, SeoJoon." But I waited and still didn't see any movement. Manchul opened his eyes suspiciously. A figure stood against the light to shield the two of them. SeoJoon turned his head coolly and said, "Uncle, do you know how long SeoJoon has been looking for you?" Manchul happily said with tears in his eyes, "This kid." Before he could finish speaking, SeoJoon rushed forward and said, "Let's talk later, please quickly take the holy Dharma back." The monster's tree branches moved. It continuously rushed to attack him but was successfully avoided by SeoJoon. Seeing everything, he thought to himself, "Good, now, I have attracted its attention. I need to quickly find its weakness," when suddenly he stopped and looked ahead. Something rushed closer to SeoJoon. It immediately waved its arms. Continuously attacking towards him, SeoJoon jumped up and had difficulty dodging the attack. He gritted his teeth and cursed in his heart, "Damn it. No matter how many times it is cut, its body can still regenerate continuously." SeoJoon looked at the restored tree branches. Then continuing to attack himself, he ran and thought, "At this rate I can't get close to it, I will launch Gungnir to penetrate its weak point." SeoJoon looked around looking for Gungnir. Seeing what he was looking for lying on the ground, he happily shouted, "Here it is." After that, SeoJoon was thinking to himself, "Now." Suddenly he glanced back and saw that Manchul and the Dharma Saint had not left far. Damn it, SeoJoon immediately turned pale and looked at the two of them and cursed silently. Uncle Manchul was still trying to help Saint Dharma go without knowing the danger was approaching. Behind him were the dryad monsters. SeoJoon stood there thinking, he and the Dharma Saint had not yet had time to run away. The tree branches attacked again. SeoJoon rotated the spear. He had difficulty resisting the attack to buy time for the other two to leave. The blue veins on SeoJoon's face appeared. He clenched his teeth and focused all his strength to attack, thinking to himself, it felt like his body was being separated. Glancing at Uncle Manchul who had taken the Dharma Saint away, he thought to himself, the two of them. Finally, they ran far enough. SeoJoon retracted his hand, jumped back to avoid it, and he dodged and ran to another place. SeoJoon ran towards Gungnir. Seeing the goal is right in front of your eyes. He quickly grabbed the handle and lifted it up. SeoJoon launched Gungnir and penetrated 7749 monsters. The dryad screamed in pain and horror. They weren't dead yet, but angrily attacked him again. SeoJoon had difficulty blocking the attack. Tree branches grazed his face, leaving a small wound on his face. SeoJoon jumped up, swung his spear and slashed everyone even though he knew it wouldn't work. See Gungnir's location. He happily shouted, he found it. SeoJoon immediately used mana to summon it back. He thought worriedly, come here. With mana, Gungnir quickly ran towards him. SeoJoon quickly held Gungnir in his hand. While SeoJoon was running away, avoiding the attacks of the dryad monsters, he suddenly discovered Gungnir's location. It was stuck in the ground nearby. SeoJoon thought happily, found it. He quickly raised his hand, using mana to summon Gungnir back. SeoJoon ordered in his heart, asking him to come here. Sure enough, as long as he had enough mana, nothing was difficult. Gungnir immediately flew towards him. SeoJoon quickly grasped Gungnir in his hands. He landed on the ground and backed away. As expected, with a powerful weapon, Kim SeoJoon's face confidently revealed his killing intent. The Dryad monsters saw that the murderer who had killed several of their comrades was in his hands and immediately trembled in fear and hid together. Kim SeoJoon also witnessed their change and immediately said, "Oh ho, look at them." He said excitedly, "Did they know the danger of this thing after being beaten a few times? Look at them trying to sneak away." Kim SeoJoon raised the tip of his spear and pointed at each one to play the game. "Uncle Ho told me to choose your own version of this. He knew everything." The Dryad monsters stood helplessly waiting for their luck. Finally, Kim SeoJoon stopped at a monster and said, "Okay, you." That Dryad trembled and pointed at me and exclaimed, Me. Kim SeoJoon happily replied, "Yes, Kiki." Gungnir immediately pierced the monster's face without warning. Looking at the discolored corpse of their teammate, the remaining monsters could only silently turn pale. They were angry. The tree branches slowly twisted. Kim SeoJoon suddenly said, "Oh." Observing the group of Dryad monsters that had surrounded him, Kim SeoJoon calmly wondered if they were trying to stop him from picking up Gungnir. He said with a dangerous look, "The trees are so annoying, thank you for coming here yourself." Having said that, Kim SeoJoon swung the shining spear on his back. The attack discolored a few trees, while Kim SeoJoon took the opportunity to look cool and say, "Gungnir is not the only divine weapon I have." The spear sparkled with silver light and the powerful power surrounding its body made the feeling of it even more beautiful. After finishing work, Kim SeoJoon went to look for the two Manchul people. When he saw the person he was looking for, he immediately raised his hand and happily called, "Uncle, over here." Manchul helped the Dharma saint come closer, pretending to blame, "Seriously, what took you so long? Why did you only come at this hour?" Kim SeoJoon didn't care and joked back, "I didn't say you were lost, and I heard that you came here to send Suyin to the Hunter Academy." He looked serious and said, "If you were going to do that, then why did you cause trouble with her in the first place?" McHugh was heartbroken by what he said, blushing shyly and saying, "This is none of your business." Not joking anymore but serious again, Kim SeoJoon asked, "How is Phop Tan?" Manchul placed Phop Tan on the ground and replied, "He is not very well. From the beginning his condition was critical, but still try your best to protect me." Kim SeoJoon knelt down on one knee to observe the Dharma saint. He thought to himself, "The situation is really bad." Kim SeoJoon took out a bottle of medicine from his pocket and told himself, "Now is the time to use the emergency medicine pill that he always carries. This is just an emergency measure, but it will help him feel better." Thinking so, he slowly poured water into Phop Tan's mouth. As expected of expensive medicine, Phop Tan quickly woke up even though he was still groaning in pain. Kim SeoJoon supported him and asked if he felt awake yet. Seeing the unfamiliar face, Phop Tan said suspiciously, "You are." Manchul understood what he meant and immediately explained, "This is the kid I told you about." Phop Tan slowly sat up, stared at him and asked again, "The person you told me about, you mean the person from the Hunter Academy?" The Dharma saint kept asking, "Are you really here to save us? How did you know we were here? Wait, how are the Dryads?" Kim SeoJoon only answered the last question in a low voice. Casually, "I took care of them." Phop Tan was terrified. He couldn't believe it. He was the only Dryad. He couldn't believe it. Kim SeoJoon took the opportunity to find out the news. "What's going on here? Why did you bring Uncle Manchul here?" This Dharma saint did not hide it and immediately replied, "To research monsters, I need someone to move the corpses. For some personal reasons, I need to do it discreetly, but I can't do it alone with just this old body." Kim SeoJoon immediately understood when he heard that, so he didn't bring any porters. Phop Tan continued, "I'm worried that it will attract unnecessary attention. As I said, we need to move secretly, so we need someone to be as discreet as possible." As he spoke, he coughing continuously. Kim SeoJoon immediately realized what the secret was and asked. He did it secretly because he was afraid the Church of Justice would find out, right? Phop Tan was frightened and asked in panic, "Why didn't I tell the association president?" At this moment, an earthquake struck, the trees shook. Hearing this loud noise, all three stopped talking. Kim SeoJoon asked suspiciously, "What is that? An earthquake?" Manchul seemed to know what it was and immediately said, "It's that bastard." He trembled and turned pale as he said, the monster had caused the holy Dharma to fall into this state. Looking at Manchul's appearance, Kim SeoJoon also understood roughly. Although I suspected this was a trap of the Church of Justice, it was strange that someone like a saint was stuck in a dungeon. But if in a dungeon there are things that even the Dharma saint cannot fight against. At this time, the Dharma saint also spoke up, as if accepting his fate, "I am very grateful that you came to save me, but you shouldn't have come here." Kim SeoJoon's face immediately changed when he saw what was in front of him. The huge silhouette moving made him suspicious. The mountain was standing. "No, that is A beam of light shined through, causing the monster to reveal its true form. A dryad 5 or 6 times larger than normal appeared. It screamed ferociously. Kim SeoJoon asked in doubt, a mutated monster? In his heart he thought, no, should we call this a monster? Phop Tan calmly replied, this is also the first time I see it. I think it's a mutation, but I'm not sure. Kim SeoJoon speculated, a mutant, however, except for size, it didn't look too different from the dryads he had met. Seeing that it didn't pay attention to them and just kept walking, Kim SeoJoon said with a sigh of relief, fortunately, it seems it hasn't discovered us yet. He stood up and asked, try to stay out of its sight and escape this dungeon. Uncle Manchul immediately said, we have tried, but we can't. Somehow, when we tried to escape from the dungeon, it was able to detect and chase us immediately. This is the reason why the Dharma Saint was so injured. Kim SeoJoon remembered the scene when he found the two of us. They immediately understood the seriousness of the problem. Dharma Saint also added a few sentences. That monster is not just an ordinary mutant. Its shell is too hard for magic to penetrate. Even if I can break it, the regeneration speed it's very fast, so it immediately recovered. Kim SeoJoon said in surprise, meaning. Without letting him finish, the Dharma Saint continued, my magic couldn't do anything to it. I even thought it was an evolved monster, having eliminated the weaknesses of a dryad and enhanced its strength. Strong, Kim SeoJoon was startled and shocked. His magic had no effect on it. Was it really that strong? The Dharma Saint sighed and replied, I am no longer the old me, I am old and weak, and am just waiting for the day I die. Honestly, it is a shame that people still call me the Dharma Saint. I can use the Dharma Saint technique to weaken the shell and slow down its regeneration rate, but the problem is that we can't do anything else during that time. If only we were 5 years younger. And even when it is weakened, to break through its hard shell and destroy its core, we need a strong enough attack, but right now, there is no way. Kim SeoJoon heard that and immediately had an idea. He pulled out the weapon from his pocket and asked again, so we're only missing one powerful attack, right? Kim SeoJoon held up Gungnir and said confidently, okay, then while you are weakening it, I will destroy its core. The other two people were bewildered, not understanding what he was saying. When he regained consciousness, Phop Tan loudly repeated for him to understand, a normal attack will not be enough to destroy the core. I will try my best, but the best I can do is weaken it. No must lose its power. He calmed down, helplessly continued, and above all, if he failed, I didn't think I had any more chances. Kim SeoJoon also understood the Dharma Saint's worry and thought to himself, yes, he has the power to talk, thanks to his emergency medicine pill, but it wouldn't be strange if he fell down right now, so if he did this, we only have one chance. Phop Tan immediately found another safer method, but only for the two of them. I will attract its attention, and the two of you will run away. Just hearing Kim SeoJoon say that it was completely possible, the Dharma Saint turned around and saw that he had brought Gungnir out in front of him. He asked suspiciously, what is this? Kim SeoJoon proudly boasted, this is the spear that will help me deal a powerful blow to it, please look. He didn't forget to remind, oh, and be careful, if it wasn't me holding it, it might give off a rejection reaction. Manchul wondered, rejection reaction, you mean this thing can receive facing the owner? It's amazing. Phop Tan looked at the weapon in front of him and immediately trembled, speechless. This is. How? Kim SeoJoon and Manchul saw his change. As expected, a series of questions appeared to hit the two of them. How could such a complex magic circuit exist without being entangled with each other, on a weapon no less? In addition, what kind of magic circuit is this? My God, there are also magic circuits that even I cannot understand. Above all, what is the source of energy emitted from this spear? After talking for a while, the Dharma Saint also ran out of breath and stopped breathing heavily. Uncle Manchul said helplessly, I have never seen this old man talk so much. Kim SeoJoon remembered Young Jimin's face when he asked to study space bags. Son, he thought to himself, thinking back, Young Jimin was the same, such a perfect pair of master and disciple. Ignoring his thoughts, he asked, is it possible now? His eyes sparkled and he replied, he alone is enough, he is completely superior, with this I think I don't need to use magic. Weaken further. He excitedly asked, where did you get this from? Kim SeoJoon stammered and said, about that. He didn't change his expression but said cunningly, the Sword Saint bought it for me. Phop Tan found it a bit unbelievable, I don't remember him being so kind. Kim SeoJoon thought to himself, if he said he sold the dragon sword to save Phop Tan, it would probably work no matter what. The night was dark, sparkling with starlight. The loud noise appeared again. The huge monster is going everywhere looking for prey. Kim SeoJoon smiled and said, now. Let's go hunt this monster boss. He holds 2 god-level weapons in his hands, followed by Uncle Manchul who is carrying the Holy Dharma. Kim SeoJoon looked serious and said, the plan was very simple. The three of them sat facing each other, attentively discussing strategy. Kim SeoJoon continued, until it is weakened by the spell of the holy magic, I will pierce its core with this spear. Then he looked over at Mr. Suyin and asked, Holy Dharma, can you use the spell now? Mr. Suyin replied, of course you can, although it may not be very effective, but don't worry, even if we have to risk our own lives. Hearing Mr. Suyin say that, Kim SeoJoon immediately replied, no, there's no need to do that, just weaken it, I'll lure it. At this moment, Kim SeoJoon had drawn up his own plan in his mind. First, he would lure it away and buy time. Kim SeoJoon imagined he would come and make the monster angry, then more time may be added. In the second step, Uncle Minchul will carry Mr. Suyin on his back, during which time the magic saint will devote all his strength to perform magic. The third step, when it was weakened, he would destroy its core with Gungnir, defeating the monster. The plan was over and they were victorious. But if they carry out this plan, there will be many uncertainties. Kim SeoJoon sat quietly thinking, there are two events that could happen in this plan. In Kim SeoJoon's mind, a series of terrifying images appeared if something happened. First was that he might die during the seduction. Second was that the monster could attack the holy Dharma during the execution. Permission instead of you. But the first incident will not happen as long as you perform well, but the second incident because the holy magic cannot do anything while performing magic. Thinking for a moment, Kim SeoJoon turned to Uncle Minchul and said, Uncle, I will try my best to attract his attention, however, I cannot guarantee how the situation will turn out. Then he gently lowered his voice, if anything goes wrong, I'm counting on you. After listening, Uncle Minchul smiled brightly, put his hand on his chest and said, don't worry, I don't want to die and leave Suyin behind. Then Uncle Minchul turned to look at Mr. Suyin and smiled, you heard it too, old man, if you don't want to die, remember to hold it tightly so it won't fall out. Mr. Suyin nervously replied, it's shameful, but thanks please. Uncle Minchul confidently continued, I'm the one who will carry you, so just trust me. Suyin nodded and replied, I will never forget this favor. Looking at the two of them chatting, Kim SeoJoon by her side gave a slight smile. And now, the official planning begins. The tree-shaped monster in the deep forest was extremely large, it looked very ferocious and scary, its eyes were deep red, its whole body shook, causing the forest to shake as well. Kim SeoJoon stood on a high tree branch to observe, Uncle Minchul was below carrying Mr. Suyin, everyone was both nervous and worried, paying attention to their tasks. Kim SeoJoon turned around and said to the other two, here it is, actually it's just a big, stupid tree, so it's not hard to find. He sat on a high tree branch, bent down and continued speaking, both of you should stay here, don't come too close, in case it discovers the holy magic while casting the spell. Listen to me, Mr. Suyin is here. Shouted loudly from below, it would be very dangerous, we should. Before Mr. Suyin could finish speaking, Kim SeoJoon interrupted, no, I have to take the risk, because there is no other way, I am the one who can dodge its attack and escape. Mr. Suyin heard that. His facial expression was both sad and somewhat admiring. Finally, he closed his eyes and agreed, great, just do as you say. Kim SeoJoon smiled and said, so now we will proceed as planned, you two must have been bored these past few days, go out. Stop. Mr. Suyin was on Uncle Minchul's back, he said to him, good luck. Uncle Minchul smiled brightly, take care, Kim SeoJoon. Kim SeoJoon replied, as did both of them. Having said that, he rushed from the tree branch as fast as lightning to the ground, passing through each branch and leaf, nimbly without leaving any traces. After a while Kim SeoJoon stopped, his face full of determination. He looked up at the monster, his face showing concern, beads of sweat on his face. Looking at this monster, Kim SeoJoon thought to himself, it looked quite big from afar, but now when he got closer, it was really huge. Then he decided to run closer to the monster. Underneath the monster standing object, thousands of layers of dust are created because its body is too big. While running, Kim SeoJoon thought, most importantly, I felt the huge energy source around it. Now I understand why the Dharma Saint also struggled. This monster looks both ugly and scary. Scary, two red eye sockets and a fierce face make others scared. When the monster moves, the surrounding trees also rotate. Kim SeoJoon carried the spear and ran below to explore. He thought to himself, luckily I didn't see any other dryads, it was just wandering around and destroying everything, at least it wouldn't be caught. Suddenly, Kim SeoJoon slipped. But fortunately he was able to stop before being discovered by the monster. He thought, calm down, just making a small mistake would be enough to ruin your life. Then he looked up, swallowed, took a deep breath, his face was sweating more. Kim SeoJoon stood below and decisively called out, "Hey!" This noise startled the monster. The huge monster slowly turned around to follow the call, using its red eyes to look straight at him. Although Kim SeoJoon was looked at, he was scared and startled, but he quickly regained his composure and steadfastly looked straight into its eyes. In the eyes of the huge monster, he was just a small person. It wished to destroy him. Now, it was challenged by a small person like him standing below, with a ferocious expression as if it wanted to devour him. Live Kim SeoJoon. As time went on, it looked deeper and deeper at Kang SeoJoon. He also looked at it. Their eyes looked at each other. Kim SeoJoon couldn't help but say, "Ha, damn." Under the monster's roots, many huge branches of tree roots slowly grew longer. They were extremely large. Just a light hit could kill. There were many here. They slowly approached Kim. SeoJoon is standing. Wherever these tree roots sweep, rocks and soil break up there. Extremely scary. A few branches rushed towards Kim SeoJoon at breakneck speed. Rocks broke apart, flying everywhere. Kim SeoJoon quickly jumped back and was lucky to avoid it. He quickly dodged. The tree roots did not let him go. They were determined to chase after him. Kim SeoJoon had to avoid tree roots. He ran, jumped, and flipped around. While avoiding, he said, "Why, it's not for tree branches." The tree roots continued to chase. Kim SeoJoon ran forward as fast as he could. He said loudly the words from before, "Let's rest a little." Moments later, Kim SeoJoon finally managed to run a little further away from the monster. He glanced to the side and thought to himself, "It attacked more strongly than I thought, so I got quite far away from the uncle's position and the holy magic." Around him, rocks and soil were still falling everywhere. If you weren't careful, you could die. As he ran as fast as he could, he continued thinking, "Is the weakening technique still not ready?" Suddenly, a tree root suddenly rushed in front of Kim SeoJoon, startling him. Kim SeoJoon quickly jumped up to avoid injury. This giant tree branch crashed straight into the ground. The soil and rocks there immediately crumbled. Smoke and dust flew around. Their force was extremely strong. Kim SeoJoon landed on the ground. The spear he held in his hand slightly touched the ground, and immediately from below appeared tree roots tightly wrapped around the spear. From deep underground, there were other tree roots emerging. They rose from the ground to attack Kim SeoJoon. Luckily, he jumped in time to avoid them. Kim SeoJoon frowned and looked towards that evil giant tree. Maybe he was afraid he wouldn't be able to deal with this tree monster, but his face was still full of courage and determination. As the tree branch gradually approached, he used the spear in his hand to swing. Light from the spear appeared, and the tree's roots were hit. At this time, Kim SeoJoon quickly ran forward, his expression becoming colder than ever. Escaping from those tree branches, he stopped and regained his composure. Suddenly Kim SeoJoon looked up. He was very surprised to see the tree shaking. The thing worth mentioning was that it was shaking very strongly. The bed seemed like the whole forest was also shaking. Kim SeoJoon stood up and observed, unable to help but be surprised. He opened his eyes wide and looked towards the giant monster tree and thought to himself, "Damn, this pressure is no joke, even the air around me is shaking." Then he held the spear tightly in his hand. At this speed, other than trying to dodge the attack as much as possible, was there any other choice? While Kim SeoJoon was thinking, behind him, a bright light appeared, illuminating a large area of the sky. He turned his head to look in the direction of the light and thought to himself, "There is a signal." Looking at Uncle Minchul carrying Mr. Suyin on his back, he was secretly happy. The magic was successfully performed. From behind where Kim SeoJoon was standing, many tree branches were rushing towards him, but not only did he not panic, he also smiled and said, "Holy law, good timing." Then the tree branches simultaneously stabbed where he stood, with extremely strong force. But surprisingly, when those tree branches let go, there was no Kim SeoJoon there, but just an empty space dented by the force of the impact just now, and the tree branches made a growling sound out of surprise. Kim SeoJoon appeared on the other side. He shouted defiantly, "Here, you bastard." He stood looking towards the monster tree with confidence, no longer afraid, his eyes full of determination. Then he smiled slightly, firmly believing that he would be able to destroy this monster. The tree monster was now trying to chase him. It was filled with anger. The tree branches chased strongly, stabbing very decisively. Kim SeoJoon was extremely agile. He ran quickly from the spot. "From here to there, don't forget the challenge, come here." Kim SeoJoon tried his best to run quickly. The monster behind him was no less competitive, using its large body to move and chase after him. The giant tree monster still tried its best to follow Kim SeoJoon. Its face was filled with anger, constantly growling and moving at a very fast speed. Kim SeoJoon ran headlong forward. Then this monster raised a tree branch high and then spun around. Next, It used this tree branch to hit Kim SeoJoon. Because he was surprised, he fell to the ground, only having time to cry out, "Hey!" After that, this tree branch stuck down there and rotated around, causing Kim SeoJoon to also rotate, and the ground and rocks kept shaking. Right after that, Kim SeoJoon quickly regained his composure and escaped from the tree branch. The giant tree branches continued to stab down, the force becoming stronger each time. Kim SeoJoon quickly dodged and ran away. As he ran, he glanced back and observed. Seeing the tree monster still chasing behind, smoke and dust rising around him, he thought to himself, "Great, it's still following him." Kim SeoJoon quickly jumped as fast as he could, jumping and thinking, just a little bit more to reach the intersection. All he had to do was lure it there. Thoughts like that kept appearing in his mind, the monster still growling behind him, getting closer and closer. The tree branches from where the monster kept chasing him, they stretched out their branches longer and longer. With their fast speed and large body, it was not difficult for them to catch up with him. In just a few seconds, the tree branches were almost touching him. When they were close, Kim SeoJoon turned his head to look, his eyes were extremely determined. Suddenly at this time, chain links slowly emerged from the ground. Then suddenly, these chains rose extremely powerfully, at a very fast speed and with extremely great power, rushing towards the giant monster tree. These chains rushed to wrap around the monster tree's body and tightened. The monster tree suddenly cried out in panic. It used its large body to struggle to escape. Kim SeoJoon quickly jumped out to avoid. He landed on the ground not far from the monster tree. He looked up at the monster tree being bound by chains. A smile appeared on his face and said, "Great." Looking at the huge chains binding the monster tree's body, its whole body was constantly trembling. The chains were getting tighter and tighter. Kim SeoJoon thought to himself, its speed and strength had decreased. The magic of the holy Dharma is quite effective. At this rate, he will definitely destroy its core quickly, Kim SeoJoon thought and was secretly happy. The monster kept struggling, making extremely shrill cries. It was trying its best to exit. At this moment, the giant tree monster turned its eyes away. It saw a light appearing in the distance in the forest. It seemed like it had discovered something. Suddenly, the monster launched a tree branch out, straight towards the source of the light without attacking Kim SeoJoon, making him stand and look both surprised and surprised. Looking at this action of his, Kim SeoJoon worriedly thought to himself, does he want to target the holy Dharma that is casting magic on him? Kim SeoJoon held the Gungnir in his hand. He was worried when thinking about Uncle Minchul and Mr. Suyin at this time. The holy magic must have run out of mana by now, and Uncle Minchul is just an ordinary person. He decisively and strongly raised the Gungnir, his eyes facing forward, his expression worried and thinking. Moreover, he also had to carry the holy Dharma on his back. At most he could only avoid it once or twice. Kim SeoJoon firmly held the Gungnir in his hand. He slowly pointed the spear towards the giant monster tree. This was his only chance. He had to put all his effort into Gungnir. His eyes were now sharp, his face was full of determination. Kim SeoJoon raised the Gungnir higher, the sharp tip pointing forward. He had to keep a cool head and be absolutely precise. If any problem happened, it would be very dangerous. The monster was still struggling in the chains, not thinking about the plan that existed in Kim SeoJoon's head. The closer he looked at this monster, the more Kim SeoJoon had his own observations and analysis. Deep inside the tree trunk is the core of this giant monster. The core is red like a devil's eye. As long as the core is destroyed, this monster tree will fall. Seeing its core, Kim SeoJoon opened his eyes wide in surprise, but he was also determined to destroy this terrifying core. Kim SeoJoon thought to himself, the opportunity has come. Think about it. He quickly launched the sharp Gungnir in his hand towards the monster. The sharp tip of the Gungnir in extremely strong flight direction rushed straight to where the monster was. Stand! The giant tree monster was startled. It turned around and couldn't help but scream in pain. The Gungnir was launched by Kim SeoJoon extremely fast and powerfully. It pierced the trunk of this monster tree. The stab path was extremely precise. The light emitted from it was extremely dazzling. The sharp tip of the Gungnir pierced the monster's core. Its core broke into pieces. The sound of shattering was heard. From a giant roaring monster rushing to attack everyone, now that the sword was pierced through its core, it gradually became silent. Its red eyes also became lifeless. Then slowly its eyes gradually closed. Immediately afterwards, the giant monster tree was toppled backwards. The sound of destruction was extremely loud. Dirt and dust flew everywhere. The whole area was in chaos. When Kim SeoJoon launched the Gungnir, he was extremely determined and full of courage. Because the spear was so big, it took a lot of effort to reach the monster. Kim SeoJoon bowed his head and panted. Then he looked up. His eyes were sharper than ever. Sweat was dripping down his face. Suddenly he fell to the ground, unable to help but be shocked. his eyes opened wide, his face turned pale without a drop of blood. Kim SeoJoon's whole body trembled. He closed his eyes and turned his head a few times to regain his composure. In his mind, he thought to himself, I've lost my strength, my mind keeps spinning, could this be a sequela of putting all my strength into? Then he slowly stood up, fatigue still in his body, he thought, luckily he destroyed its core, in this condition I can't restore Gungnir anymore. Then he sighed and said, phew, praying that the uncle and the holy Dharma were okay. He quickly calmed himself down, ran to where the other two were standing and called out, Dear uncle, holy Dharma, are you two okay? Looking back from afar, he could see Mr. Suyin supporting Mr. Minchul. Uncle Minchul's body was lying on the ground, his head was supported by Mr. Suyin, it seemed injured. Mr. Suyin heard him ask and replied, I'm fine, but... Seeing Uncle Minchul's situation, Kim SeoJoon shouted loudly. Uncle Minchul sat on the ground and touched his leg and replied, I'm okay, just a little scratch. Kim SeoJoon looked worriedly at his leg, he said, let me see. Uncle Minchul's leg was injured below the knee, his pants were torn there, making the wound easily visible. Kim SeoJoon, I thought to myself in panic, even if that monster was debuffed, dodging its attacks would still be too much for a normal person like me. He rubbed the wound with his hand, breathed a sigh of relief and said, luckily it didn't affect his life, if he was treated soon he would recover quickly, but no matter what he said, he had to get checked quickly. Let's check first. From Mr. Suyin's side, he was very assured, and the holy Dharma would of course be unharmed. Uncle Minchul listened and said again, he said it was just a scratch. Then Uncle Minchul laughed, dispelling the tense atmosphere. He laughed and said, if I become 5 years younger, I can carry 2 people on my shoulders and run for 2 to 3 days straight. Mr. Suyin heard. After that, he frowned, he just spoke loudly. Kim SeoJoon looked at the 2 people talking, he smiled and thought to himself, being stuck together for a few days they had become closer. Uncle Minchul, after being told by Mr. Suyin, immediately changed the subject, now we just need to get out of here, right? Kim SeoJoon immediately replied, yes, once we break the core, there's no problem. Nothing more. Now on the other side, the giant tree monster's eyes suddenly moved slightly. Kim SeoJoon walked in front, he pointed and then turned around and said, I'll go restore the spear a bit. Behind, Mr. Suyin was helping Uncle Minchul up, he asked, can he stand up? Uncle Minchul replied, you better worry about your body. Suddenly a loud noise rang out, everyone was startled and stood still for a moment. They all opened their eyes wide and were visibly worried. Above ground, the lower roots of the monster tree began to move. How surprising, from a dead monster lying on the ground, it can now stand up incredibly strong, its huge body standing tall in the middle of the deep forest, making everyone gasp in surprise. Kim SeoJoon looked at the monster, he couldn't believe his eyes, his pitiful face was full of despair, he slowly spoke, what to do? The monster once again stood up, its body having revived after so many attempts to destroy it, making Kim SeoJoon wonder, how did it happen? Even though the giant tree monster had its core punctured and its body healed from the fracture, it could recover easily. Kim SeoJoon thought to himself, I used Gungnir to hit it, could it be that the core is still there? Has not been destroyed. Suddenly, from the hole in the core that had just been stabbed, another core appeared slowly rising. Kim SeoJoon was shocked, what a joke. Kim SeoJoon's eyes widened, stood still for a few seconds, then said, yes. Mr. Suyin helped Uncle Minchul and quickly continued, 2 cores. Both he and Uncle Minchul were no less surprised than Kim SeoJoon. This monster revived a second time, its red eyes opened once again, it was full of life and roared like a hungry tiger. Immediately, giant tree branches appeared again, they stretched out and rushed towards where the 3 people were standing, with very fast speed and extremely strong force. Kim SeoJoon immediately held the spear in front of Uncle Minchul and Mr. Suyin, everyone's face had a look of fear in it. Then it slowly controlled the huge tree branches to attack, and the tree branches also shot out from there like an arrow. Kim SeoJoon once again had to fight. Even though everyone was tired, their determination was still very high. He clenched his teeth, his eyes shining with determination to destroy the monster, firmly grasping the spear in his hand. Hands, ready to fight at any time. This giant monster once again awakened, it opened its red eyes, lowered its face and growled loudly, making loud noises that echoed throughout the forest. Each tree branch is long like bloodthirsty demons, it controls the tree branches to rush down to attack. Kim SeoJoon once again held the spear and ran in front of Uncle Minchul and Mr. Suyin to protect the 2 of them. Huge tree branches are intertwined, ready to destroy others at any time. Although desperate, Kim SeoJoon quickly regained his spirit. He firmly held the spear in his hand, his face once again showing great determination. When the tree branches began to attack, the whole forest was now covered with a light purple light. Kim SeoJoon glanced and saw Mr. Suyin performing the holy magic. Tired, this startled Kim SeoJoon. During this time, Mr. Suyin suddenly vomited blood, causing Kim SeoJoon to startle and scream, "Sir!" Kim SeoJoon looked back at the monster. He frowned and gritted his teeth, thinking, the magic saint has used up all his mana, he won't last much longer. To take down that bastard we have to destroy that core. The giant monster was roaring in battle, it controlled tree branches to destroy its target. Suddenly Kim SeoJoon remembered the Gungnir. He thought to himself, where did it go? Among so many huge tree roots, they overlapped each other. Gungnir was hiding deep in those tree branches. Kim SeoJoon's face darkened, he was a little angry and thought, damn, I can't find it because it hid among the tree branches, it intentionally hid because it was aware of the power of Gungnir. Even so, I still have the Longinus's spear next to me, and if I can land a direct hit, I'll likely be able to destroy its core. After thinking about it, he turned to seriously ask Mr. Suyin, could you use the decay magic again? Mr. Suyin was sweating while performing the magic but still quickly replied, I will try my best. Then he spoke again, but it was moving. Right now, the huge tree branches were moving at breakneck speed. Wherever they moved, rocks and soil flew up there. The scene was extremely chaotic. They competed to knock on the shield where Mr. Suyin was performing magic. Mr. Suyin continued to speak, so that I could attract my attention, but, boy, before he could finish speaking, Kim SeoJoon ran forward, making both Mr. Suyin and Uncle Manchul startled by this action. Kim SeoJoon looked ahead very seriously and said, there's no time left, we need to do everything we can now. Having said that, Kim SeoJoon decisively ran inside to get close to the monster even though Uncle Manchul and Mr. Suyin kept calling outside, wait a minute, SeoJoon, the evil tree branches are still attacking outside the protective layer that Mr. Suyin created. Kim SeoJoon ran inside, immediately giant tree branches chased after him. He quickly ran through the branches, trying his best not to get hurt. His speed was very fast but also very dangerous. Those the tree branches chased and knocked down continuously, their force was very strong. While running and dodging, Kim SeoJoon thought, I will die if I get hit by one attack. The holy magic blocked these attacks in such a bad way. Then he widened his eyes, his anger gradually increased, he raised the spear and swung it. In his mind he thought, however, he has reached his limit. Now, he was the only one who could do this, which was to put all his strength into destroying this demon's core, ending everything. Kim SeoJoon held the spear firmly in his hand, swinging it with powerful strokes. He used all his strength to focus on the spear and swung it violently. The nearby tree branches saw this scene and only surrounded him, they did not come close to him. Mr. Suyin and Uncle Manchul were outside. At this time, Mr. Suyin's whole body kept shaking. Suddenly, these tree branches stopped attacking, they looked back, as if they had found a new, interesting target. More interestingly, this made both of them bewildered. All the huge tree branches focused on the target, Kim SeoJoon, they rushed down to attack at extremely fast speed. In just a moment, they were all like arrows aimed at Kim SeoJoon. When they were about to charge, Kim SeoJoon jumped up strongly, his whole body jumped up to avoid the attacking tree branches. The tree branches crashed into each other, creating an extremely loud noise. More wounds appeared on Kim SeoJoon's face. He looked down at the tree branches that were threatening to attack him. This giant tree monster used its red eyes to look in Kim SeoJoon's direction, each of its huge long branches stretching out to attack him. Kim SeoJoon jumped down from above, he thought to himself, to pierce the Longinus into the core, I need to go deeper, but there are no loopholes that can help me go deeper. He slowly and gently approached, thinking as he approached, this is completely different from simply luring it. Kim SeoJoon stood up and decisively walked forward, but after just a few steps, a tree branch wrapped tightly around his leg. Kim SeoJoon looked down at the tree branch under his feet that was growing higher and higher, his face darkened and said, damn. Meanwhile, other tree branches from all directions were also gradually rushing towards him. Suddenly, long chains appeared again, chains tightly binding this giant monster. The evil tree branches that were rushing towards him were also stopped by those chains. He looked up and saw a series of scenes, the chains became more and more, holding the branches tightly. Looking at them bound and unable to move much, Kim SeoJoon thought to himself, the paralyzing magic of the holy Dharma. Kim SeoJoon seemed to understand something, he thought, right now. Then he quickly took the spear and ran as fast as he could, running with all his might toward the giant monster tree. Kim SeoJoon quickly ran over, he quickly jumped over the tree branches bound by chains, his steps were more determined and stronger than ever. Looking at the tree monster struggling to escape, the chains are getting thinner and thinner, Kim SeoJoon thought to himself, the magic chains are becoming fewer and thinner. As expected, it took great pressure on his body to activate it again when he didn't have enough mana left. The monster was still growling, its power was extremely strong. Kim SeoJoon looked up, it seemed he had discovered something. This monster kept struggling, but in the middle of the tree trunk, Kim SeoJoon saw its second core. He thought to himself, there was an opening. Thinking about it, he put all his strength into running through the tree branches he was tied to, rushing straight forward. After a moment, Kim SeoJoon suddenly flew up and used his spear to stab straight into the monster's body. When he stabbed the spear in, everything emitted a bright light, shining on Kim SeoJoon's determined face. Long chains wrapped around the monster's body, now thinner and almost broken. Kim SeoJoon looked at this scene and was momentarily surprised. When it got out of the chain, the giant monster seemed to explode. It controlled its tree branches to smash everywhere, rocks, dirt and dust flew up. Unfortunately, Kim SeoJoon was hit by an attack. He painfully spat blood from his mouth and fell down. From where Kim SeoJoon fell, there was a large dent in the ground. One could see how terrible the monster's power was, but Kim SeoJoon still tried to make a sound as if to attract the monster's attention. This object. His face was full of wounds, blood and unchanging determination. The monster looked towards him. Its scary face truly made people feel shivers. Kim SeoJoon's hand trembled. He tried to hold the spear firmly in his hand and thought to himself, the Longinus spear can destroy its core, so I thought I could just approach it, which was a mistake. The monster leaned closer, growling louder and louder as if it wanted to devour someone. The next second, it launched its huge tree branches towards Kim SeoJoon sitting on the ground. Kim SeoJoon's body seemed frozen at this moment. Looking at the tree branches rushing towards him, he thought to himself, I have to avoid it, but my body. Suddenly, a purple light appeared again, surprising him. At this time, Mr. SeoJoon ran to block in front of him, using magic to stop the monster. He shouted loudly and ran away. SeoJoon gritted his teeth and endured it, using everything he had to deal with the monster. He thought to himself, I can't believe that a student like him can achieve this level of outstanding martial arts without even realizing it. At the age of 30, how long has it been since the last time my body felt a thrill from someone else's martial arts? 5 years, no, in just 1 year, there won't be anyone in Korea who doesn't know this young man's name. After 1 year, who knows what level he will reach. That young man has the potential to surpass the hero of Korea one day, and will become a hero of humanity. However, he is not strong enough now. And so you must live, even if today I have to die for you. Then Mr. SeoJoon turned and shouted, now, run. But right after that, he was surprised because Kim SeoJoon's voice replied, I don't want to. Kim SeoJoon behind him tried to slowly stand up, his whole body trembling non-stop. Even though his body was in a lot of pain, his will did not allow him to give up. Mr. SeoJoon panicked and tried to continue speaking, not to get caught up. Kim SeoJoon leaned on the spear with both hands. His body was now really weak, his body was full of wounds. Mr. SeoJoon continued, you have to live, we don't have much time left. Don't be so stupid, face reality. Even though Kim SeoJoon heard the words to stop him, he completely didn't care and continued to stand up to fight. Kim SeoJoon gritted his teeth and replied, so why don't you run away? Why don't you leave us and run away? Why don't you leave Manchul uncle? You can do that, if you want. But hearing that, Mr. SeoJoon turned his head to look, his face very shocked, his eyes wide open. Kim SeoJoon tried to walk closer. As he walked, he said, why do you keep trying to sacrifice yourself? When he tried to stand up a little more, Kim SeoJoon's whole body seemed to break into 100 pieces, and he cried out in pain. Not long after, he continued to fall to the ground, trying to hold on to the spear in his hand. Looking at SeoJoon fighting with all his might, looking at the monster trying to fight back, he seemed helpless because he couldn't do anything. Kim SeoJoon continued to spit out blood. At this moment, the thought appeared in his mind, yes, running away was the best option right now. Leave this place for the holy Dharma. Taking Uncle Manchul away from here, countless images appeared in Kim SeoJoon's mind. On the contrary, the worst choice is to fight this bastard at a disadvantage, Kim SeoJoon thought in pain. I got the answer, but for some reason, I don't want to run away. At this moment, he imagined that in front of him was Hercules, and he was still sitting below, unable to stand up. Kim SeoJoon raised his face, the yellow light shining and made him squint his eyes. Hercules was standing in front of him smiling, he thought, suddenly remembering what Hercules said in the first lecture. According to you, what is strength? Let's discuss the familiar question, what is power? Let's look at a specific and prominent example in this regard, Heracles. That is the greatest god in Greek and Roman mythology. Right at the most desperate moment, when cornered, the instructor's words appeared in Kim SeoJoon's mind. During the orientation session, he emphasized the importance of muscles. However, physical strength was not the type of strength he wanted to impart. SeoJoon breathed heavily. He looked straight at the person in front of him. Heracles resembles a young man, healthy and muscular. His constant smile makes him feel like a shining sun. His eyes looking at SeoJoon are full of trust and pride. He is the most famous person among the gods of myth and legend. Kim SeoJoon thought. Suddenly, I remembered the words Heracles said during the first lesson. The voice from the phone rang out. His sweaty hand tried to hold it firmly. Heracles smiled brightly. He said, "Strength does not only come from physicality." Heracles started asking, "The power I want to teach you isn't just that. Now, are you wondering what the power I'm talking about is?" SeoJoon couldn't hear anymore because he was out of breath, sitting on the ground, breathing heavily, complaining, "The daily tasks are really difficult." There was a long silence, not sure whether Heracles was waiting for an answer or because he knew the kid on the other side of the screen didn't even listen to the question, so he was a little bored. SeoJoon bewilderedly raised the phone to his face. He wondered, what? The lesson was over, why did he stop talking? Heracles was silent, seemingly contemplating something far away. He finally opened his mouth. It was atonement. SeoJoon was surprised. The answer was so unexpected, and the weight in it was enough to make people ponder. Heracles told about his life, an anecdote that many people must have heard and be familiar with. Because of Hera's curse, I went crazy and personally murdered my beloved wife and child, suffering from a heart attack. Tormented by guilt, I thought about taking my own life. Luckily, my good friend Theseus convinced me to do the 12 trials to atone for my sins. A total of 12 impossible challenges are, respectively, killing the Nemean lion, dismembering the Lernaean hydra, capturing the Cerynea hind, and capturing the Erymanthian boar. Also, chase away the Stymphalian birds, capture the Cretan cows, capture the man-eating horses of Diomedes. Finally, there are challenges like finding a way to kill yourself, stealing Hippolyte's belt, angering Geryon's red calf, stealing the Hesperides apples, and kidnapping Cerberus, the gatekeeper of hell. At the time when Heracles successfully killed the Nemean lion and captured the Erymanthian boar, everyone around him praised him to the fullest. After completing the trials, my reputation gradually increased over time. But whether human or divine, whatever it is, there is jealousy. However, everyone suddenly started laughing at me. Those people used bad words, they mocked me saying you want glory. Heracles did not deny that point of view. They were right, I have committed too many sins to become a hero. There was almost no end to everything. Just like that, people came up with reasons why I could never redeem myself. Those insults were so painful, I once again thought about suicide. But, I can't give up. First was the cruel reality, then the sinful past to the end, yet Heracles overcame it. He continued, I lived for others, sacrificing myself to the point that they thought I was an idiot. Heracles lived on for a truly simple but ultimately noble ideal. I only hope that in the distant future, one day altruism becomes a natural thing in life. Just like that, Heracles climbed to the top of glory based on his determination, based on the fact that he did not give up despite any adversity. The goal from the beginning remained the same, only then could I forgive myself. About that fateful day. And it could be that Heracles completed the 12 trials and was honored as a true hero. Not only that, but also that he saved the Olympian gods in the war between the giants, a war that almost ended. End of the age of the gods. That life can be summed up in one short sentence. Heracles, who lost his mind and killed his family, at the end of his journey of atonement, became the greatest hero. Heracles closed his eyes. Every word he spoke was gold and gems drawn from a life of walking on the sharpest rocks. The strength that guided me on my path was the will to redeem myself. SeoJoon leaned towards the phone, as if he wanted to swallow every word. When he tried to do something or become someone, people would often tell him that it was impossible. Returning to the cruel present, where the lives of SeoJoon and his companion were not guaranteed, words of encouragement rang in his ears. Well, as someone who had gone through difficult trials first, let me tell you this. He said, I heard such words throughout the trial, however, I want everyone to know that it doesn't matter. The Dryad frantically attacked. SeoJoon stood up, Heracles' voice still ringing in his ears. Over and over again, they would tell him that it was impossible. Over and over again, they would say that it is impossible to do. He gritted his teeth. The power of Heracles' words was amazing. I won't tell you to ignore it, you won't. SeoJoon stomped his feet on the ground. Just one, he only needed one reason of his own that forced him to succeed. He stood straight, breathing heavily, but his eyes were bright and alert. Heracles affirmed, that alone was enough to become a hero. SeoJoon opened her mouth wide and inhaled deeply. He walked towards the holy Dharma. Seeing this, he shouted loudly, Stop, It was crazy. The Holy Dharma tried his best to stop SeoJoon. You know you can't win, it's not a monster you can handle at this level, you clearly understand what he wants to convey. I don't deny, no, I can't deny, I understand better than anyone that I can't win. The Holy Dharma still tries to hold SeoJoon back. Stop, it's useless, it doesn't work. He still walks step by step. Fear clings to him like a heavy burden on his chest. A voice whispers beside him. My ear told me to step back. However, SeoJoon did not give up. At the same time, Heracles' voice echoed in his mind. He reminded, remember, when the whole world says you can't do it, reason will say you're at your limit. SeoJoon understands himself clearly. There are 1,000 reasons why he can't win. I have thousands of reasons to run away. SeoJoon came behind the saint. He was startled and surprised. Heracles' voice was still in his ears, but when he thought he couldn't do it, SeoJoon thought to himself, for an old and experienced saint, acting the actions of a 28-year-old young man like me must have seemed reckless. The words of encouragement gave him great strength to move forward. Keep going. Each step was steady. SeoJoon stepped out of the protective barrier that the Dharma saint had set up, but these 28 years were nothing to the Dharma saint. He was stunned. I heard, how stupid, SeoJoon thought, I want to live a meaningful life. He clutched the weapon in his hand, a strong golden light enveloping it. SeoJoon was determined. He didn't want to give up and ruin the future. Heracles pointed out, that was his true strength. Something strength arose from within his body and soul. That thing is divine power. The light spread out, spreading brightly, hindering the Dryad's movement. It squinted its eyes, cried out in surprise, and squealed. The divine power that filled SeoJoon's heart was so brilliant. Heracles commented that his power was an overwhelming force that destroyed all obstacles. SeoJoon stood in preparation. Divine power accumulated and strengthened his entire body. Dryad used countless vines and branches to rush towards SeoJoon. He swung his hand. One blow swept away all those pointlessly entangled wires, creating a beautiful golden sparkling arc. He continued to easily cut down a few more vines that crawled to his side. SeoJoon frantically attacked the Dryad, making it growl and scream in pain. He gathered all his strength to prepare for the finishing blow. Then it shot up and crashed through the Dryad. Its whole body disappeared into nothingness, revealing a white space. The Dryad disappeared, debris falling from its body like snowflakes. SeoJoon's attack created smoke and dust that covered a large area of the forest, as if a flood had swept through. The Holy Dharma struggled to withstand the pressure to stand firm. He opened his eyes wide in horror. The Dryad's giant body was damaged to a large extent, thanks to SeoJoon's unexpected strength. The Dryad's corpse collapsed. The person who had just defeated it was still floating in the air. He staggered and lost his balance. The saint was startled to realize that SeoJoon was not okay. He used his strength to surround his body and bring him down safely. A while later, when the sky was clear again, Uncle Manchul walked forward with difficulty using his cane. He limped, worriedly calling out, SeoJoon, you are lying on the ground, sitting next to the Holy Dharma. Uncle Manchul quickly asked, is SeoJoon okay? The Dharma saint replied, his injuries are very serious, but at least his life is not in danger. Perhaps he is unconscious because he used a certain amount of power. Cannot bear it. Hearing that, he was relieved, and there was an undisguised look of pride on his face. That's it, the power he just used was unusual. When did that sick child grow up so quickly? The Holy Dharma is sad. He confided, to be honest, I was very scared. Uncle Manchul did not understand. What did he say? He was surprised at what he had just heard and quickly asked again, wait, are you afraid of that giant tree? The old man known as the holy man is sometimes afraid of something. He just laughed, ha ha, I'm also scared, then cursed under my breath, damn it, even though I always called myself an old man. The two old friends carefully looked at the unconscious young man, confiding that what we fear is not the tree, but death. More precisely, we wonder what will happen to the world after death. I die, and that scares me. Uncle Manchul did not understand what the Holy Dharma wanted to express with that sad expression on his face. What did he mean? The world, he said, is not as safe as people think. The Dharma saint remembers sitting on his sick bed and thinking, so the closer we are to death, the more we worry about it. He trembled when he realized that the world still needed me. Uncle Manchul asked, is that why you accepted disciples? The Holy Dharma acknowledged this, yes, and Jinan did much better than what I expected, but, I cannot escape the darkness deep in your heart. He looked up at the clear blue sky before his eyes. This disciple must have helped him clear his mind. His heart must have felt somewhat relieved, but thinking back, those worries were so absurd. It was a warning. Wake me up. Even though SeoJoon is still in a coma, he has been assigned a mission that is not easy. Even if I die, my disciple will carry out this mission for me. A question echoed in his mind. SeoJoon had gritted his teeth and said, "If so, why don't you run away, holy Dharma?" He was surprised to see you walking towards him. I saw it in the good young man. This strength. And that saint was shocked to realize, behind Kim SeoJoon's back, the beginning of a new generation of heroes. He smiled with relief. Looking up at that blue sky, it's like looking into a bright future. The rainbow crossing is so beautiful, time passes so quickly.